Across the street, sitting on the curb, was a teenager, maybe 16 or 17, skinny, shivering, hugging a worn-out backpack. His name, Mason would later learn, was Eli Thompson. But at that moment, he was just a stranger who looked lost in a world that didn't seem willing to care. Mason hesitated. He had his own problems. His own stress. His own pain. Helping someone else wasn't really on his daily schedule. But for some reason, maybe it was instinct, maybe it was the way the boy's hands shook from the cold, he crossed the street. "You all right, kid?" Mason asked, his voice gentle but firm. Eli didn't look up at first. When he finally did, his eyes told a story Mason wasn't ready for: fear, exhaustion, and something even heavier, hopelessness. "I'm fine," the boy whispered, although everything about him said he wasn't. Mason could have walked away. Most people would have. But something about the kid reminded him of himself years ago, alone, scared, trying to look tough while breaking inside. So Mason asked again. And this time, Eli opened up. He'd been kicked out of his home the night before. His stepfather was abusive, and his mother, she loved him, but she never stood up for him. Eli had been running from that house, from that pain, from everything. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't slept. He had nowhere to go. For a brief moment, Mason felt his heart tighten. He didn't have the money or space to take care of someone else. He was barely holding his own life together. But then he remembered something his mother used to say. "You don't need to save the whole world. Just save one person when you can." And that was enough. "Come on," Mason said, nodding toward his shop. "Let's get you warmed up." It was a simple act, just a cup of hot chocolate and a warm place to sit, but to Eli, it was everything. It was safety. It was hope. It was the first moment in a long time someone looked at him like he mattered. Days passed. Mason let Eli hang around the shop, sweeping floors, organizing tools, helping with small tasks. In return, Eli got food, warmth, and something more important than either of them realized at the time: stability. They talked. Slowly. Carefully. Like two people trying to trust the world again. Mason learned that Eli loved cars, not because he was a mechanic, but because machines made sense in a way people didn't. Parts fit where they were meant to. Problems had solutions. Nothing screamed or hurt you back. Eli learned that Mason, beneath the rough edges, had a heart bigger than he admitted. He wasn't perfect, but he cared with a quiet strength that made people feel safe. Weeks turned into months. Eli went back to school with Mason's help. Mason even spoke to the school counselor to make sure Eli got support. When Child Protective Services got involved, Mason worried he'd lose the boy he'd grown attached to. But after hearing the full story, and seeing how stable Eli had become, they approved a temporary guardianship. The day it became official, Eli cried silently in the car, staring out the window. "No one's ever fought for me before," he whispered. Mason didn't say much. He just placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and squeezed. Sometimes silence holds more love than words ever can. Life didn't magically become perfect. There were tough days, trauma that resurfaced, nights when Eli woke from nightmares and Mason sat beside him until he fell asleep again. There were financial struggles, paperwork battles, and moments when both of them wondered if they were in over their heads. But they kept choosing each other. Choosing care. Choosing healing. And slowly, the boy who once sat shivering on the sidewalk became stronger, brighter, and more confident than he ever thought he could be. On the day Eli graduated high school, something he once believed was impossible, the entire crowd cheered. But no one clapped louder than Mason. After the ceremony, Eli hugged him and said the words that broke every wall Mason had ever built. "You didn't just help me, you saved me." And Mason, fighting back tears, replied, "No. You saved me too."